Yo, so hey Kevin, I'm just looking for an update from you. I'd love to know when you're gonna be dropping this new album of yours. Yeah, I'm dying to hear new music from you, man. Like, I know Currents was incredible, but you can only live off of it for so long before you know you just have to, like, put something new out there. Yeah, and you've been taking your sweet time with it too. Like, at some point, you just have to rush the process and put it out there. Oh, that's actually the title? Well, that is a slow rush. You've been making me wait for 5 years. You want me to review it, though? Yeah, I can do that. No, I can't tell you what I think of it now. I just asked you if it's out. You told me it's out now. So after this call is when I'll be able to listen to it, and then I can make a review for the YouTube channel. Yes, you actually have to watch the video this time. I'm not just gonna spoil it for you. Okay, well, maybe there is a rating down below in the description, but it makes a whole lot more sense if you actually watch the entire thing. And wait, can you to subscribe to me like you promised before? No, I'm not thirsty for the subs. Okay, maybe I am a clout chaser, but aren't we all? Kevin? Kevin? Dude's gonna make me wait 5 years for his album, yet he can't even be on the phone with me for more than 2 minutes. What a diva. Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we are discussing the new Tame Impala record, The Slow Rush. This is the fourth studio album from the Australian musician and mastermind Kevin Parker, not to be confused with the reincarnated John Lennon. Currents was the name of Kevin's most recent album from 5 years ago. It was a breakup album, one of the greatest albums of the 2010s, I would also add. It had lush and incredible synth work, and because of that, it would be the magnum opus of Kevin Parker, no doubt in my mind. A couple of personal notes for me with that record as well. I heard it when it initially came out, within the same month of its release, which back in 2015, I didn't listen to albums when they initially came out as much as I do now, but when Currents was originally released, I couldn't help but to notice there wasn't much of critical attention, at least within the first month. Of course, it went on to make bigger waves by the end of the year, and no doubt by the end of the decade, as many people would say it's one of the best albums of the decade. But in addition to listening to that album within its first month of lifetime, I also could remember vividly where I was when I was listening to it for the first time, which for Tame Impala, his records, they always have this visual stimulation in my experience of listening to the album or any of his albums. He's just that kind of artist where, like, if something visually is sticking out to you, it will kind of last a long time. And Kevin has made me last as this fan waiting for new music from him, as well as it's taken him 4 years for any new music to surface, as last year, around March of 2019, we had his first single in 4 years. So yeah, that one's called Patience, which no doubt conveniently was titled as like this kind of response to Kevin's absence. It's as if he was directly speaking to his fans who couldn't wait for something to come out. I like Patience a lot. It has me questioning why it wasn't put on this record. Like, I was digging the psychedelic rock fusions with congas, which I thought would have been a nice compliment to a song on here that did make the cut, Is It True? And for sure, the lyrical themes would have played into the album as well, being about patience, waiting for your moments, and growing up in stages. But it was only a couple weeks after Patience dropped that we actually got the official lead single for this album, Borderline, which was reworked as an album version of this single. We had some increased amounts of bass and some slight revisions to the lyrics. The main story of the lyrics still remaining the same, as it had the protagonist essentially on the edge of something new, a brave new world, something unknown, maybe a little strange too, just taking this plunge of faith. And musically, with the track Borderline, it is going back to Tame Impala's groove-oriented rock, which I think fans of Current would absolutely go crazy for this, and it's like this nice sequel to The Less I Know the Better. So after Patience and Borderline were dropped as singles, Tame Impala put out a couple more singles towards the tail end of 2019, one of them being called It Might Be Time. This track was traveling down another interesting path lyrically, as Kevin was questioning his relevancy and if he could remain in the spotlight, essentially, if fans could still see him being the cool indie figure, making it in the alternative scene, the hip-hop scene, just crossing over. Musically, I also love that track, as just how it was so chaotic with the siren synthesizers. And then at the end of 2019, we also got the track Posthumous Forgiveness, which might have my favorite beat on this entire album, as when the drums first kick in, it's almost like my brain is melting, like in some kind of psychotic fashion. Or, you know, you just picture like this candy bar just melting on the sidewalk on a hot, humid summer's day. Lyrically, again, pretty compelling, as Kevin was like searching for this relationship with his deceased father, whom Kevin never really had much of a tie with, because he divorced his mother at such a young age, leaving him kind of abandoned. Kevin is realizing that forgiveness might be the key to any kind of like lost relationship with someone, and if you just have so much time in between your last meeting, or if you're never going to see them again, it's just like forgiveness is the main thing that you need to get over your anger or hatred, or even confusion, or just like any kind of emotion where you're just unsure of yourself. So yeah, lyrically, The Slow Rush was moving towards something that I could really get on board with, just talking about time and like the relationships that we build and kind of lose over time. Not losing anything musically either, as The Slow Rush does have its moments with groovy and hypnotic kind of bass and just infectious hooks all over it, as Lost in Yesterday was one of the singles to come out at the beginning of 2020. Absolutely love this track. It has this rhythmic nature, as we have some unique and novel sounding guitars in the interludes, and then that leaves us with the deep cuts on this record, which they have varying degrees of success. I think all of them play into the strength and the quality of the record for sure. I just think that some have a longer lasting effect, especially after only a few playthroughs. I do first want to highlight how the opening and closing tracks make this record come full circle, both lyrically and thematically. Both One More Year and One More Hour, of course, these tracks alluding to timelines and what humans have to deal with at the beginning and end of a new year. I just especially admire how Kevin compresses and stretches out his conception of time on these two tracks, as everything in between these two tracks, it's like this is when Kevin is making his important decisions and doing all the heavy contemplation throughout the middle portion of the record. Essentially, the songs sandwiched in between the opening and closing moments of this record are just where all the growth and maturity happen. And with that growth and maturity, I feel like every song does flow well as a concept from one to another, but also musically. The intro track is what kicks this all off, with this chopped vocal snippet to layer this foundation of the track. It's very similar to the instrumental used on Mac Miller's Blue World. Then moving on to the second track, Instant Destiny. Musically, it's as busy as some of the synth work was on Current, actually even a bit more chaotic as displayed on the outro. For me on Instant Destiny, I just love the slick and cool drum patterns, and it's just great to hear Kevin allude to the traffic on the song as well. I presume that it's the same kind of traffic that he experienced in the same world on the track Yes, I'm Changing from his previous record. So it's just a nice sequel to that song lyrically as well. From there, we move on to the track Breathe Deeper, which has this keyboard riff that is repetitive, but it doesn't really wear itself thin, as Kevin still comes across very charming, and even the outro that is tagged onto this song, it's very captivating with its reverbed and distorted guitar. Another deep cut I'm absolutely loving on this project is called On Track. We have some soft organ-led sections in the pre-chorus before we move into the looped and ear candy hook, with gorgeous harmonies in the chorus. It's just this optimistic banger saying, "But strictly speaking, I'm still on track." And then there is a song on here called Tomorrow's Dust, which has some acoustic plucking of guitar over top of glistening vocals. We have this interlude with some dreamy synth work and ethereal strings, just like this middle portion of the song that sounds pretty prog inspired, as if it were done by King Crimson or the Flaming Lips. Unfortunately though, Tomorrow's Dust, it kind of stays the same throughout most of its runtime, just a lot of its melodic structure. It doesn't really build upon itself or deviate from the norm too much, making it a pretty painful 5-minute song to get through. And then by the end of the song, it doesn't really make much sense why Breathe Deeper is being thrown into this track again, why we have to hear it a second time when it adds really nothing to the message or the meaning behind that song. And yeah, I'd say that the long, drawn-out length of a track like Tomorrow's Dust is probably what most people are going to be complaining about on this record, especially for casual listeners of albums in general, not just with Tame Impala's music, because he does usually border on a bit more ambitious sides of lengths and structures of songs. So yeah, I do definitely get it if you're bored out of your mind by the end of this project, but for me, I feel like a lot of these tracks benefit from their progressive rock growth or evolution to the compositions. Not every single song will be as danceable or as instantly memorable as something like Lost in Yesterday, but there's this groove or some kind of sticky element to latch onto with each song, and even if you can't find something through that, I feel like you can still get lost in the creative atmosphere, the psychedelic atmosphere. It just might take you a few extra listens to find something that you will fall in love with. But for me, I do love a good portion of this record. It is dreamy, it is ethereal with its synth work. Yet again, we have shimmering sounds, reverbed vocals, everything really sounds mesmerizing at times. We have warped and bent mixes all over this thing. Also, it helps that the themes of introspection and time passing do pull a thread through this album, making it feel cohesive. The slow rush certainly sets out on this narrative arc and completes it. Essentially, Kevin finding his new love, and she helps him realize that, yeah, we can still see life in an interesting and new perspective each and every day, even if we rerun our routines over and over again, kind of like a rinse, dry, and repeat cycle. Yes, songs will sound repetitive and sound similar to one another, but I just feel like that plays into the themes of memories, aging, and the life process. I'll basically sum up this record with saying that everyone seems to be working against the clock in life in general, I would say. Everyone's kind of looking at their watch, realizing, hey, I'm late for the next thing I have to go to. But with the slow rush, this album, it doesn't really have to be caught up with that need of being someplace else, because it's enjoyable from front to back in the moments of what it's playing with. I can really sense that Kevin is indulging himself in the present, and he learns to grow and mature from what is in front of him, what is in front of his face. Even more than ever, as a newlywed, he realizes that this is important for the rest of his life, knowing that time is only going to be going faster. So yeah, this record only has a few dull moments. I I actually love a good portion of this. The Slow Rush is definitely a worthy follow-up to Currents. It is encapsulating a great experience of an album. I'm feeling a strong 8 out of 10 on this, with the potential to become a 9 as the year goes along, just like the same potential that any Tame Impala record has had with me in the past. They seem to grow on me with time, I feel like. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the new Tame Impala record, The Slow Rush. I really enjoyed this one. I hope you guys did too. Sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of this new music. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new in town. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a rockin' day.